Richard will be on his way.
Excellent.
Is Flick here?
Not yet. Not yet. Sorry, Jenny's playing around with things. Welcome, everybody, to our... Hey, Shell. There's a couple more people just dropping in now. Yeah, welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. During lockdown, it was great. We got loads of people. Then as lockdown started to lift, it got less and less. And as the weather got nicer, it got less and less. And I can't blame people. It's good. It's good people are going out and having fun and living and playing. And we've just been joined by Ilva. Welcome, Ilva. Welcome. You did this today, so
did what?
You made it up. What we're talking about?
Nature, simplicity, beauty,
and questions
and
comments and things anybody wants to share. As you know, we're professional, and yeah. So, do you want to start this off? I've just got off. I just did a call just before, a little interview thing, so I'm happy for you to start.
I wasn't expecting that. You normally talk for at least 25 minutes. Yeah, I think the inspiration for tonight was just we went away camping for 3 days, from Friday through till Monday, and just noticing how over those days, like just the mind getting quieter and quieter and quieter, and just getting so interested, just looking at the water or watching the fire in the evening, just really simply sitting and being, and how easy it is when we're at home just to get distracted. There's always something to be doing or something to listen to or any of that. Like we didn't have our phones on the whole time, and we didn't have signal most of the time. And it was just really nice to reconnect with that space and just get still. And yeah, I think sometimes you don't realize how fast your mind is until it really, really sort of slows down. So the inspiration for the group really was just about the simplicity, because I think it can get so complicated. It's got so many other people's opinions and ideas, and there's just so much, like with social media, the news, and it just felt really nice just to get quiet with myself again. And I think we often don't allow ourselves that time. And like I've been at home today, and I have been on with clearing up, but I actually sat with Rusty for about an hour and just sat and stroked him. I can see how easy it is for us to think there's something we should be doing or something that's more important than our own peace of mind. So it's just been nice to slow down and
our own doing what we actually want to do.
Yeah, not what we should be doing or...
Yeah.
And I think just knowing that there's a time for movement and there's a time for rest. And I think sometimes that balance can get really out of whack for us.
Certainly.
So I think that's just been our experience over the last week, and just seeing the importance of that.
I think it's quite nice to have a group which isn't based on a booja-booja-gram.
Yeah. I haven't been eating booja-booja recently, so I didn't have any new
we've
titles.
Got no quotes because we haven't been eating booja-booja chocolates lately. So, no, it was really nice. We just had 3 nights away, a couple in a tent. Went for a walk with my sister, who was eating in the middle, well, my middle, waving around. And yeah, it's beautiful. Rusty nailed a 14-mile walk. He's 16 years old this year. We carried him a little bit, but the whole time I carried him, he whinged, let me out, let me out. So he did his bit. He's curled up now, so we'll not disturb him. But yeah, I think, I think it's a really relevant thing and a really nice thing what you made the title, because I said you just do whatever you want, because I was on my way, I was doing some work today. Not that you weren't. But one of my passions when it comes to the principles is talking about the natural world, because I've learned more about myself and about mental health and about peace of mind and about connection, unity, intelligence, mind, divinity, whatever you want to call it, through observing the natural world than anything else. And just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to shut the door because the oven's beeping, so I don't know what's burning. Just 1 second, Jen. Keep talking, look.
It's really nice to have so many new people. We never know who to expect. We kind of get a regular group and then suddenly people drop off and new people drop in. So it's just really nice to have people here. I don't know, was anyone here on the big conference that
Sorry
just
about
happened?
that.
3BGC. So it's like the 3-day mass conference with loads and loads of speakers. No one attended. It sounded good. It sounded like there's a lot of great speakers. And our friend Godel in South Africa was one of the speakers. And he spoke, I asked him, how did it go? And he said, I spoke about the beauty that I can see in the world right now through everything that's going on. And he spoke about his passion for taking this to the Congo, where he's from. And whenever we get messages from him, it is always, when he woke up to the principles, he said he found God within. And in any situation, it's like he sees beauty, he sees God in life. And it was just interesting because some of the things that have happened in his life, it would seem he would be justified in being really negative about it and not seeing beauty, but he keeps learning and growing and evolving. So I was so grateful that he got to speak at the conference.
Certainly.
And like have him like for a wider audience. If any of you haven't seen his interview, it's up on our YouTube channel, Godel Safu. He's just an inspirational man.
Yeah, he's just one of my most amazing human beings I've ever met, to be honest. He was a Catholic priest. Pardon me, he was training to be a Catholic priest. He'd been a young monk, whatever one of them's called. Has he got a name? A young monk, young Catholic monk. Lived in a monastery. Yeah, he was training to be a priest. But because he became paralyzed from his waist down, he was unable to be ordained and couldn't practice sharing the love of God. And so he fell out with God. And he fell out with God for a long time, to God bless him. But what he said was he discovered that the Creator, he said, I think in his words, he said, I discovered that I am the Creator. That God that I was so afraid of, and so God was over there judging mankind, he said, I suddenly found it within me. He said, I suddenly found it within myself. Diane, did you just unmute that for a reason? Did you just unmute that for a reason, love?
No, it was unmuted, and then my iPad fell over, so it did something else then.
Naughty iPads. No problems, love. Yeah, he said he found God within himself. He said, the God that I have been so afraid of was me. The God that I felt judged me was me. And he said, now I'm at peace. He said, now I'm truly at peace. And this is a man who you'd look at it from the outside and go, wheelchair, outskirts of Soweto, black man, immigrant from the Congo in South Africa. Not very welcome in many places. But a truly remarkable man, was he? So I was so thankful that he got to speak at the conference. But I think that meeting Godel and meeting people who he was working with, and we did 3 days with him at his charity, Redeeming Hope for the Disabled. If anybody ever wants to raise money, it's an awesome charity to raise money for. There was one young lad who came up to us because we were white. It was because of Leanne. Leanne, wave your hand. Leanne's the reason why all this happened. Leanne's the reason why Godel was actually speaking there in the first place. Leanne took part in a 6-month program that we ran in Johannesburg. And Leanne was somebody who saw very quickly into this. And she was like, I know that this has got, his name is Godel Sefu. Leanne said, I know that there's something in this. She's just
Jumped off the bed.
disembarked. She said, but I really want to see this in a setting like a business setting or a charity or something like that. And I said, well, Leanne, in all honesty, you were the first people in South Africa to really go through this training. So to start to gain understanding into the principles. So if you want to see this work in love, you've got to go out and make this happen. You've got to take it out. And within a couple of days, you got in touch with us and said, I've got this charity, Redeeming Hope for the Disabled. And this is how we got to meet Godel. So it's because of Leanne Cohen, who's on people's screens right now. Lovely, awesome, awesome woman. But one of these people afterwards came up to us, a young lad, and he said, we thought because you were white, this was day 2, we thought because you were white, you were going to bring us money, you were going to bring us things. This is what you say, because it actually got said to you, didn't it?
No, it's just these. That's what we said.
Yeah, and he said, but what I see is, he said, but what we see is you've actually brought something more valuable. Which when I heard that, I was so thankful, because being a white person, coming from privilege, it's like you turn up at these places and you feel, I mean, I knew that we weren't privileged enough to be able to like throw money at these people, but we're privileged enough to be safe, comfortable, have a house over our heads, and we can put food on the table. And we've got a loving family around us. But to hear that, to hear this person say, what you've brought is even more valuable than money, was beautiful. And it wasn't long afterwards, we got an email from him, and he had this young lad, he had 100 kids stood in front of him, and he'd started his own thing called Free Thinking. And he'd started sharing with people in South Africa, the kids of South Africa, what he'd come to understand about the mind. Because he saw that starting to understand the mind, starting to understand the nature of mind. I say this because you can't understand mind. It's impossible to understand mind. Mind is too phenomenal to understand. To understand something is to have an intellectual concept. To understand something is to have knowledge. Now, knowledge comes from mind. Knowledge cannot take mind and all encompass it into one thought. You can't take mind and all encompass it into one thought in order to understand it. It's impossible. But as we start to understand the nature of mind, we actually start to understand the nature of ourselves. And this is vital if people want to start living a more peaceful life, a more connected life, a more accepting life. When I say accepting, I don't mean you accept everything and roll over. Because as people start to gain understanding into the nature of understanding, for want of a better word, into the nature of mind, they don't necessarily become passive. They can actually become quite proactive. This is not a passive thing we're talking about. This is very much a proactive thing we're talking about. You can take an individual's life and turn it around in a moment. Starting to gain insight into mind can be one of the most ruthless things we can actually go through. It can be quite disturbing for some people when they start to touch that space or start to become aware of the nature of what they've been living out of, the habits that they've been living out of blindly. It can be quite uncomfortable for people. So but it's been beautiful to be able to work with you and travel to these places and be able to have these conversations with people. People from very different backgrounds to our own, people very culturally different. But to see that no matter where we go on earth, no matter who we speak to, no matter whether it's through direct lingual conversation, which we both understand English, or whether it's through translators, to see that that message awakens a little spark within people, that once that little spark starts to burn, it has the capacity to burn and completely and utterly destroy who that person thinks they are, how that person behaves. It can take an individual from one space into a whole new space. And I was just talking to a lady just before, just did an interview on with a lady called Jasmine. And I was just telling her about my personal experience of when I woke up to, when I came across Sid, and I woke up to when I started to see beyond his message. And the ruthlessness of that experience, when it took me and almost like broke me, not physically. It took me, and it took me from a person who was scared of life, scared of people, depressed, angry, and suffering. And in a moment, I stepped out of this world into a new world. I think Lise once described it as being like she unzipped herself, walked out of her being into this new being, into this new world. And this was such a telling moment for me personally, because it was in that moment where I really, really gained a respect for the nature of mind, for the nature of consciousness, and for the nature of reality. We saw you. Seeing that they're all the same thing. Seeing that they're all truly the same thing. How you doing, mate? Nice to see you.
Good.
Nice to see you, big lad. It's something that humanity has been missing for a very long time, especially in the West. We've been missing this vital aspect of our being. It's not that it's missing insofar as it's gone away or it's ever left us, because it can't. It won't, it never will, because it cannot, it can never. But we've simply been asleep to it. We've been bobbing around thinking that reality is some kind of event that's an external thing that we're subjected to. When in actual fact, it's the external world is a manifestation of the consciousness of all beings. But our own personal reality is a manifestation of our personal mind. Is a manifestation of our pinpointing consciousness, our wave on the ocean of consciousness that is all things. And starting to gain a respect for that, starting to even contemplate, starting to even consider that even could be a possibility, is to start to open somebody's mind, is for that individual to start to open up their mind. To open the mind is not difficult. You start asking big questions of your mind, you'll start getting big answers. That's the nature of mind. And if we want to truly start to understand ourselves, we need to first and foremost start to gain a respect for the fact that when we ask questions about our character, we're looking in the wrong direction. So how do we differentiate what is character and what isn't character? Character is who we think we are. But when we start asking questions about what we are, that's a very different conversation. And this is where nature has really helped me. This is where starting to look for the magic that exists in nature, the inexplicable, the obvious, the simple. You look at anything in nature and you'll see absolute intelligence, absolute perfection. You will see something that human beings cannot create. Human beings cannot create a pea. You can't create a bean. You can't create a blade of grass. You can't create a bacteria. You can't create a cell. But they all exist. There's an intelligence that binds all things. It's the place from which our intelligence comes. What we call human intelligence is not human intelligence, it's just intelligence that happens to come through humans when we're ready for it. And this works on when we're ready for it, works on a micro and a macro scale. When humanity is ready, it gets delivered to it information. When an individual is ready, they get delivered to them information. When an individual is ready to wake up, they will wake up. There'll be absolutely no stopping it. And everybody on earth is going to wake up. Whether they like it or not, whether they believe in it or not, it won't care. Like I say, this stuff's ruthless. But it's ruthless in the most fantastic, beautiful way. But it can come with it pain. It will leave more questions than it answers. And that makes life exciting. But I think the greatest gift that I was left with, other than peace of mind on the whole, other than excitement for life, other than a new job that I absolutely love, other than killing trees, was knowing that I cannot know it. That no matter what I look at, I do not know. I was always a person who believed that knowledge was power. If I knew something, I was safe. But starting to look at things, you can take anything. I did this with a young lad the other day. I picked up a feather and I said, "What's that?" And he went, "Feather." I said, "And what's a feather?" He said, "It comes off a bird." I said, "Okay, what's a bird?" He said, "It's an animal." "What's an animal?" "Well, it's a living thing." "What's a living thing?" "Something that exists on Earth." "Where did it come from?" "An egg." "What's an egg?" "Something a bird lays." "What are birds?" "Animals." "What's an animal?" Eventually end up, don't know. And if you look at that logic, you could say to Kelly now, "What you're holding?" She'd go, "A cup." She'd go, "A cap." I'd say a cup or a mug, a mug can, holding a mug. What's a mug? Well, a mug is a vessel for holding liquid. Okay, what's liquid? You ask enough questions and you'll, well, what's water? No, it's oxygen and hydrogen. What are oxygen and hydrogen? Well, they're gases. What are gases? You ask anything, you start questioning anything, you will start to break it down backwards. You will always come to a point where you go, I do not know. I know what water is. Of course I know what water is. What is it? What's water? What's flames? What's the wind? What's the movement of air molecules? What's that? You ask about anything, you look at anything, and you take a step back, take a step back, take a step back, take a step back. Ask the next question, where did that come from? Where did that come from? What is that? And you will get back every single time, I absolutely guarantee it, to, I don't know. And then when you reverse engineer that, you start from I don't know, and then you look at the fact that we think we know something, you realize that we're deluding ourselves. We're living in an illusion of thinking we know stuff. Jesus said, to enter the kingdom, you must become like the child. Where was this kingdom he spoke about? He told us the kingdom was within ourselves. I'm not talking religion. But he said the kingdom that you are looking for, the kingdom called God's kingdom, the kingdom of the creative source, is within you. You are it, not within your body. It is within your beingness. What is beingness? I don't know. But it's real. It's real. It exists. What he called the kingdom actually exists. This is not an ethereal idea. This is a space within our being that is a dimension within our being. That is a dimension within this being, which is quite a telling point in itself, that there is a dimension within our being that is invisible to our everyday existence and reality. But it is creating and projecting a reality in every single moment. And that's what living is. That's what we call life. We are a creative aspect of reality. And the only reality we can never see is that we create. No matter what it looks like. If it looks like hell, we've created it. If it looks like heaven, we're creating it. If it looks scary, we're creating it. If it looks possible, we're creating it. If it looks impossible, we're creating it. If somebody looks like a pain in the ass, we're creating it. That was the most freeing thing I ever discovered, was that thought is the thing that creates reality. What is thought? I don't know. I don't know, but here we all sit in this divine mystery. Talking about something that applies to every single living being, not just human beings, but all living beings. The fly that walks up the window, the caterpillar that you find on your lettuce, the fish in the seas, the birds, the whales, the fungal kingdom, the bacterial kingdom. In fact, this whole universe is a thought. Everything is an idea of source mind. Even consciousness. Even us. We've asked shallow questions, thinking that they've been deep ones. And we've looked outside for answers, for who we are and what we are. And then the time to simply turn around and look at ourselves and go, what are we? What am I? Well, I'm a man. Well, no, you're a man because you've learnt you're a man. Man's a word. That's just a word. What does that word even mean? I don't know, but I identify with it. That's what I am. I'm a man. Well, I'm called Dave. Well, again, that's another word. Please. That's not what I am. It's just something I identify with. These are just memories, things I've picked up along the way. Not what I was born as. I thought I could smell burning. So it's my dad's cooking. But this is important for us to start to. It's important for us to start to look at. And we're ready for it. Anybody who is on this call now is absolutely ready to walk out of an old life and step into a new one. And it's inevitable for everybody. At some point, this is going to happen. Because the fact that you exist is leading you to that point. Nobody dies. Not saying bodies don't go into the ground or go into the crematorium. I'm not talking about that kind of death. Nobody dies insofar as life doesn't die. Because what is life? Life is a state of consciousness being. No, consciousness can't die. It's energy. You can't destroy energy. What's energy? Mystery. You know, we always think that death's the mystery. Life's the mystery too. Why are we afraid of one mystery and not afraid of another? Or why are we afraid of both mysteries? Does it make sense that this universe would create something that it should be afraid of when there's only itself? But it's inevitable that everybody will wake up, because awakened state is our truest state. Awakened, when I say awakened, what I'm talking about is the self without the story, without the character, with the awareness of character, should I say, with the awareness of the nature of itself, the awareness of the nature of who we are and what we are, what this planet is, what this earth is. You can be aware and not know. You can have respect for and not know. You can know something and not even know what you know, because it's beyond the intellect. And everybody on this call now is here because they know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, somewhere within their being knows that there is something that they know exists, but they can't quite put the finger on it. That's why everybody's here. And they know that if they touch it, life will start to make sense. And they know that what lies there for them is some form of happiness. Because why else would we be looking for anything but that? some kind of peace of mind, some kind of connection and love. And it's funny because that's all anybody actually is. That's all we all are. Every single being. It's all made of the same thing, each playing its own little part in this little drama we call life, with infinite reality taking place in any given moment. Not just your reality, not just my reality, but infinite reality. This is a frigging amazing event that's taking place. We're living as a participant in infinite reality just on this planet. Every single living organism is an experience, is an experiential being, is an experience of reality. Every single woodlouse, every single tick, spider, bird is in its own way and in its own right an experience of life. That's what life is, it's an experience. All life is an experience. All reality is an experience. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing showing up in an infinite amount of ways. Playing coronavirus, playing life, playing death, playing birth, and repeating it. Everybody's free. Everybody on earth is totally free. Apart from the limitations we place upon ourselves with our own mind, our beliefs and our past. The idea that the past exists in anything but a thought. In who we think we are, what we've been told we are. And these are just stories. This is why the ego is memory, brought to life in the now. And that's why in Hinduism, Buddhism, they say, see past the ego, and you'll find yourself. You'll find you there. And when you find yourself, you'll know yourself. But when you know yourself, you'll know you know nothing. And then you'll come back into this little dance of consciousness, and you'll play your game of life again. You'll get caught up. You'll take it all dead seriously again. And you'll forget. Then you remember, and then you'll forget. And then you remember, and then you forget, and then you remember. And you'll just see it for what it is. When it's seen for what it is, it's a gift. But the gift is you. I was saying to the lady as well just before, that I feel like I was lucky in that I'd never come across principles or spiritual teaching. So I hadn't created an idea as to what I thought I was looking for. Again, thinking I knew something regarding this life stuff. So because I hadn't created an idea as to what I think I'm looking for, or I hadn't seen somebody who'd come across the principles and gone, I want to be like them, I want their experience. I wasn't looking for anything. Because one of the biggest ways of destroying, or should I say, not destroying, it's the wrong word, of postponing our stepping into our new being or self, whatever way you want to talk about it, is by having an idea of what it actually looks like. And this is really obvious and simple, because the moment we do that, the moment we think we know what we're looking for, we go in search of it. And we judge reality according to it, this belief. We hold ourselves up against a belief and go, no, I'm not there yet. No, I'm not there yet. No, I'm not there yet. No, that's not it. No. We're chucking away all that, when really we should be chucking away that belief, what we think we are looking for. Because what we're truly looking for was all this stuff. Life. Living. It's really easy for us to judge our lives as right or wrong, good or bad. Not quite there yet. You can never not be quite there yet. Not quite there yet doesn't exist. It's just part of the story. It's bullshit. Everybody's there. Everybody here is there. We're all there now. We just have to see it. We just have to become aware of it. That everything that we are looking for, we already are right here, right now. And you've never been anywhere but there. We've just been identifying ourselves, misidentifying ourselves with experiences, feelings, and thoughts. Come into this world and we've never had the same experience twice. Why do we keep looking for ourselves in experiences, thoughts, and feelings? Which thought are we? Which feeling? Which experience? When you stumble across yourself, you know, because it's real. It's real. It's more real than anything else. And you know it. And the moment you know it, you go, I know that now. You don't know what you know, but you know it. And it'll change your life in a moment. It will open your heart and it will bring in new knowledge. And this is how new knowledge comes into the world. As consciousness shifts. It's funny, you know, there wasn't the idea of building a fighter jet during the medieval period. They weren't ready for it. Or train tracks or trains during the Roman period. They weren't ready for trains. It comes when consciousness changes, and as consciousness changes, so does thought, because they're both the same thing. As consciousness changes, thought changes. And again, this works on a micro and a macro level. The beautiful thing is, as you change, you help change the people around you, because we are all connected. There's experiments proving this, both in our species and in other species, that prove no matter where we are on the planet, we have a direct effect on people across the other side of the planet. This is why the earth will change. Jesus said that the earth will go, not religion. The second coming of Christ will not be a man showing up. It will be when sufficient number of people realize Christ consciousness within themselves, that it creates a cataclysmic change in consciousness of mankind. It's estimated that numbers 500 people. 500 people would be enough to catastrophically change the consciousness of mankind. 500 people could affect 9 billion people. 7.6 billion, sorry, people. This is why every single time somebody looks in this direction, they're helping the world. Isn't that a beautiful thing? To help the world, you don't even have to get off your ass. I love that. That's my kind of help. To help the world, all we need to do is find love within ourselves and find peace, quiet, stillness. How do you find stillness? You do what Patricia does. If you like knitting, you do knitting. Or Richard, if you like washing up, you do the washing up. Even if you don't have a choice. If you like running, like my sis, you go for a run. If you're an artist like Kirsty there, you do your paintings. If you do poetry like Heidi, you do your poetry. If you like Anna and you love your art, you do your art. Do what you love, and your mind gets quiet. And you get moved. You get moved to write words, you get moved to put paint to paper and create something brand new to this world. You create something brand new and to bring something brand new into this world. And it comes from your being. What a gift everybody has. And as we do all the things that we love, we bring more peace into the world. And it affects the whole. That's why Sid Banks said I'm as much use tending to my garden as I am giving a talk to 100 people. And this is also why stressing about the world doesn't bring any benefit to the world. As we bring stress into our lives, it brings stress into the world. Don't forget, what we bring out of ourselves and put onto a paint easel works like that principle. Whatever we bring out of ourselves and put down in pen to paper works on that principle. You bring forth from within the being of ourself, brand new in every single moment. What do we want to bring into this world? Do we want to bring fear and worry and hatred and separation, or do we want to bring love and joy? Sounds totally counterintuitive to a species that has been told that they need to fight for everything. Fight it, fight it, fight it, fight it, fight it, fight this, fight that. Let's fight cancer. Let's fight mental health. Let's fight this. Let's fight that. Let's fight terrorism. Let's fight everything. What kind of language are we bringing into this world? What if we stopped fighting and started finding other ways to deal with stuff? Not from quite such an aggressive stance. And that includes towards ourselves. Fighting our own being, fighting our character, fighting our thoughts, fighting our own minds, fighting our feelings, going to war. There's no peace found at war. This isn't passive. This is about realizing we're alive. Of course I realize I'm alive. I'm alive. No, it's about realizing we're alive. It's about living. And what is life about? It's about living our life, our authentic life. What do I want to do with my life? That's what life's about. That's what this is all about. That's why we're all here. We're here to experience. Oh, but if I did everything I wanted to do, my life, it would all collapse. No, it wouldn't. You would enjoy your life. People are afraid to do what they really want to do in life because they're so afraid it'll all go wrong. It doesn't. When you align with yourself, when you start to live from your own authenticity, life looks after you like you can't believe. And you start to develop faith. And the faith that you develop is in life. My sister is a beautiful example of this. Absolute faith, no matter where she goes, no matter what happens, this is going to teach me something. I'm going to meet somebody. This is all going to be for the betterment of myself and for other people. And she's absolutely right. And not once has she been let down on that fact. It's inspirational to watch. She calls it blowing with the breeze. She has faith that life, like I say, this isn't passive. Blowing with the breeze is not passive. It's absolutely proactive. You're just being lived. That's all we're being anyway. Are you doing the living? Are you keeping yourself alive? Or are you just living? Is life really hard? Life's not hard. Life's a piece of piss. We don't have to do anything. It just happens. What becomes hard is all the beliefs we develop around it. Thoughts. That's where it starts to appear hard, because we think and we assume that what we think is true and real. What is true and real is the life aspect, because that's never gone anywhere. it doesn't go anywhere, not even after death. There's enough evidence now. There's more evidence to prove there is life after death than there is to prove that there is no life after death. And it's all nature. And nature doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't create a single imperfect being. Not one. Not even a snake with two heads. It's perfect. Imperfect is a judgment. There just is what is.
Break. So if we have a 10-minute tea break, and then it'd be cool to come back and hear from people and see what they're hearing. So I don't know what time.
20 past. I'm guessing it's all the same place. Cool.
Welcome back. Has anyone got any questions or things that have come up for them through listening to the first hour, or any questions that they brought earlier on? Thought Kelly was going to put her hand up, but she's doing her hair.
As if you have manners.
Or if people have poems they want to read, or
Yeah.
I'd just like to say it made me feel really emotional.
Oh, Kel, I was waving at Heidi. I thought I was looking. I was going, Heidi.
Sorry, Heidi.
That without moving her lips.
No, you go for it. Go on.
I was just going to say, just listening to you talk tonight, and this happens like pretty much most weeks, but I just felt really emotional, like big sort of weird sort of swelling in my heart, and I don't know, I know it made me cry, but in a nice way, in a kind of relaxed way. But I just felt like I put on the thing. My hearing my hearing felt like it was just coming from my heart, and I could feel my heart just feeling fuller and fuller as you were speaking. It was just, yeah. I don't really know what to say. I just feel really emotional about it, about what you've just said. Very moved.
I feel like it's like a tree. A tree grows with cellular division as the way. And it's like every time your heart expands like that, it's like the cellular division and you grow. You know, and the tree can never go back to the old way of being once it's become a tree.
Mm.
You can't go back to a seed. It can create more seeds. It can help other trees come into being. It can go out and propagate and sow seeds. It can do that. But it can never go backwards. And every time the heart kind of opens itself, it's like you enter, you literally, you create a new dimension of being. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful exploration. It's like cellular growth. Every time you open and expand, you You grow like a tree grows and grows and grows. But it's totally normal. And it's totally human.
Yeah, it feels really human.
Yeah, it's like,
Really?
it's nothing weird. I think that's the point.
Like a weird sort of, I don't know, it felt like a kind of sort of dropping down. No, the first thing I said was the right thing. Like smelling. I just,
Leave it alone. Don't even talk about it. Forget it. Just enjoy it. Because the moment you start talking about it, you just collapse it.
So when I sat outside just now and I sort of was thinking about how I felt emotionally, and I sort of just don't think, feel how you felt. It's just such an amazing, such an amazing way to feel. Just feel it. Like all the other stuff you've had to just feel, other stuff in your life you've had to feel to really get to know, to really know it. I just was just sit outside, just like, no, just feel it. Like, and it's just odd. Well, not odd. You just said exactly the same thing that I just said to myself outside. Really nice just to give yourself permission to just feel.
That's the authenticity we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Feel it.
Thanks, Cal.
Cheers, Kelly.
All right. Thank you.
So nice because we get to see you pretty much weekly on these, and like how much you've seen and just how often you do drop from your head down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I can't. Sometimes I'm in a place where I can't do that.
Yeah.
But and then now I look at the times when I can't do that, and I'm thinking, you know what? You could have done that. You just got caught up in the spectacle. It was just a spectacle.
And then you look at it again and you realise you couldn't. Because
In
it
that
was what it
moment,
was in the moment. And then you can accept the past for what it was
Yeah.
without judgment.
Yeah.
Because
I've been like that. Yeah.
the past could never be anything different to what it was. It's impossible.
No, the past, the things that happen and bring you to that next stage.
The past is what happened. And it couldn't have been any other way. It's impossible.
No.
The past's just made up of nows, for want of a better word. And whatever you are now is all you can be.
Yeah.
It's only our intellect that says it should have been different or could have been different, when in actual fact it was impossible it could have been different.
Totally.
Because it just was what it was in the moment, which is now the past. Cool. Cheers, Carlo.
Heidi, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just very aware that I waffle, so I'm just going to try not to waffle. That's why I find poetry so good, because I just get it out. But the thing is, what I want to say is, when you were saying what you were saying tonight, I wrote a poem about it in bed as I was going to bed last night, and it's too long to read out. It's massive, but it's exactly what you were saying. And I cannot believe this is happening to me. I can't believe this is happening to me, that I'm actually, like, so much has been happening over the last couple of days. And I did have a real, like, dip in good feeling over the weekend. But the thing is, I called for help. I got the help, and I went down into hell. But the thing is, in that hell, I realized that all this shit that people are, accusing me of, it's nothing to do with me. But people said that to me in the past, but I really understand it now. It's like, it's, everything that anyone says to me is, I'm going to make my own little idea up about that. It's all created. I totally get this whole, I am creating everything. Like, if you were to hear my story of my upbringing, I think I sent you a poem. you know, my sister would say, what are you talking about? You know, it's like, that's my perception. Yes, shit happened, but my mind, my thoughts made it into what I made it into, and no one else can have that. And I can so see this now, that so much of my perception has been like growing up, and even like still now, it's always coming from this like place of lack. So, you know, this victim, and so of course, you know, I'm going to carry on feeling like that if I'm constantly seeing things in that way. But, you know, I can see it happening. So like, I can see it happening in front of me. Like, I got a text from my sister today, and I had that like heat inside my chest, and I was like putting my son to bed, and I could feel this heat in my chest, and I was reading him stories. I was so focused on this heat in my chest, but because of the text and my perception of my reaction, the normal reaction of that text. But like later on, you know, I just thought, hang on a minute, you know, what am I doing? I'm just doing that same thing. And I saw it, and it's like, I don't know, it's crazy, you know. So, you know, when I write these poems, like I wrote this poem, it's called Jackanory, you know, and it's like, you know, it's Jackanory, and it's like, you know, I've sacked the director, the producer is open, he's innovative, you know, he's not fixed, he's not stuck in a rut. And it's like, you know, when I wrote this poem, I was in bed because I couldn't even watch the shit TV that I normally watch. I'm in bed writing a poem, but it just came out of me. I'm not even it's just happening to me. It's insane. I can't believe this is happening. You know, it's like, you know, even things with my ex, and you know a little bit about that, like even him and I, there's like, it's okay. There's no shit happening anymore. And I really see that, you know, all these things that have been really grating at me, like, oh my God, I'm being accused of this, and that means this, and da 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 da. It's like, no, you know, it's like they're just doing their job. They're just doing what they do. It's got nothing to do with me. And I really do feel like I just can't believe it, that I don't have to attach to all that shit anymore. So yeah, you know, we are creating our own reality, and even now when I'm not like, I don't know, I don't know, but I'm so seeing it now. I'm so seeing it, you know. So, you know, who knows what's going to happen? You know, I just don't know. And as soon as I notice I'm doing that overthinking, and I see myself, you know, kind of squeezing myself into this tiny little person, I just think, what are you doing? You know, it's like, oh God, you know, let go of that. And, you know, if you know, I'm sure I'm going to get sucked in like for days again, but it's just seeing those little things, yeah, and it's amazing. So yeah. Anyway, I won't waffle on too much more.
That was beautiful waffling. No, I love that. I love that, and I love your poetry. Love. You know when hearts are opening when they start, because I think I said to you something. I don't know. I always think poetry is like, I think it's beautiful, and I think we love it because it talks indirectly, but directly to a message. And it's like, even that statement makes no sense, but it's like poetry in itself makes next to no sense that it should evoke such emotion in people. You know, it's words. Why should those words over other words, and put those words in that kind of sentence? And it's like, but there's this deeper aspect of our being that recognizes and associates with and lives these words. And it's like, I always know when somebody's heart's opening when they start writing poetry, or they start, like Sam suddenly started picking up a pen and a paintbrush and started painting and stuff like that. You just feel moved to start creating. And that it can be anything. It's like Trish with the knitting and stuff like that. It's like, just feel moved just to start creating, and beautiful. hides. It's you love your hair, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's growing.
Right. I mean, we're not speaking to the same person we spoke to 2 months ago. That person 2 months ago wouldn't have understood what you were talking about just then. And that's really beautiful, love. Hey, a friend.
She's just climbing all over me.
She's lovely.
Yeah. All right. Calm down. Yeah, it's mad. It is mad. And, you know, even like, I'm even sending some poems to my ex. And I did say, you know, I've sent in an email, you know, I'm assuming you don't mind me sending these poems, because he hasn't actually said, you know, or anything about it. So, you know, when it feels right, I'm going to send them to him, because some of them are, you know, about him. So
You sent me one. It was it roses are red, violets are blue. I've got a knife now. Get in the fucking van.
No, I didn't say that one. Yeah, I'm very careful about, you know, there are certain ones I won't send him, because, you know, some of them say something like, you know, I wanted to end him, and yeah, you know, I've got to be careful with divulging. But I've even sent poems to, you know, his dad and his mum, and, you know, mad as it seems, like, you know, I was listening to Fleetwood Mac, and then, you know, because I know they all like Fleetwood Mac, and then I came up with these 2 poems, and one was for his dad and one was for his mum, and his dad's not responded, but his mum has. But the thing is, you know, that doesn't matter. But the thing is, you know, I have so much love for them, because they really did see me for me when I first met them. But then I went a bit mad, you know, I did, and was just a bit of a nutter. And, you know, I think they're kind of, you know, I think they're being open-minded and waiting to see how it all transpires, because they know what happened when I kind of did kind of go a bit mad. So, you know, I understand their hesitation. And again, my ex, you know, I understand his hesitation, because I know what I've been.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, you know. So, you know, it's all fine, you know.
Cool hides. That's like, it sounds to me like I say, you just become aware of your ego. You start to notice the shit that you've been living out of habitually without any awareness of it. All of a sudden, you suddenly gain awareness around it. It's like you were just describing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh my
And
God,
rather than
it's
being a
crazy.
victim and blaming everybody else for your behavior, you're going, well, I just know I acted mental. And it's like you take ownership of your own experience, and frigging hell, well, there's a maturity in this, you know. It's like, I always remember Sue saying, she said, you turned into a man at 33. And it's like, whatever that means. But I felt like I did feel like, fucking hell, imagine what I must have been like. I felt like I grew up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm owning my Jackanory, okay? I'm owning it. Are you owning yours? Not you, but anyone. Yeah, it's crazy. Honestly, it's crazy.
It's true. Would you post that poem on Freedom Thinking?
Yes, I will, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I will, definitely. So, yeah, I can put
You,
it on Facebook, yeah.
Well, if
Yeah.
you email it to me, I'll post it, because I think when other people post,
that's true,
like
yeah.
visitors' posts,
They
don't
go on,
seem
do
to
they?
appear.
Yeah, they don't appear, because when I sent mine, that one I sent to you, and then I never thought that got sent. So yeah, I'll email it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will.
Thanks, Heights,
Thank you.
love.
Okay, thank you.
Mwah.
Mwah.
Anybody else?
Is that a gin and tonic, Heidi?
No, it's ginger tea.
Oh.
But I have got a crafty prosecco here too. Just the two.
Just the two.
think one of my highlights of the camping trip was meeting a little girl who's 2.5, and it's a Polish family who lived down in Hull, and they were camping about 100 meters away from where we were camping, just wild camping. And Dave offered, did they want to come and sit around the fire with us later on that night? And I'm not sure the parents were going to, but the little 4-year-old was desperate to, so he wouldn't even eat his tea. He just wanted to come and speak to us. So then he sort of slowly got closer and closer to us and started talking to us. And then a little bit later, his sister came over, and then the parents. But the first thing she said, I think, to Dave was, "I love my brother." He said, "Oh, that's really nice." And then she just seemed to follow me wherever I went and want to talk to me. So I just sat on the floor and let her talk to me about, she was speaking Polish and English, so sometimes I didn't really understand. But like, she'd point out ants and she'd point out things. And then she just looked me directly in the eye and she said, "I love you." And then she said, "I love everyone." And I was saying to Dave afterwards, like, this, there was something about this little kid that she was just so full of love. And she was just looking around, and then like she was picking up a rock and lifting it above her head and saying, "I'm strong." Like, "You are really strong." But she was just so present and full of love for life and for people. And we just said, "Don't lose that.
Yeah, keep that.
Keep that." And I don't know that many adults who'd look you directly in the eye and just, after knowing you for 10 minutes, and tell you that they loved you and you knew that they meant it. Like, she was beaming. And then, like, our little brother had this amazing imagination. So he was telling us about a tree that was in his garden that grew apples and pears and pineapples. And he told me that on a walk with his mum, he'd seen mushrooms, and the mushrooms could talk to him, but his mum couldn't hear them, but he could hear them. And some of it.
Dads.
And then he told me about, he said, I've got 2 dads. My other dad's in the sky, and he's the clouds and he's the rocks. And then his mum said, "Oh, he's got an amazing imagination." And then he went and whispered in her ear and she said, "Oh, you mean granddad? You mean dad's dad?" And then he said, "Yes." And I don't know, it was just cool being around such egoless little characters. Like, they haven't got such a sense of who they are or identity or how you should be around people or the rules of what is and isn't allowed at the moment. They wanted to connect with us. They wanted to be with us and tell us what was on their mind. And like her mum said, now you've listened to us, you won't leave you alone, because they want your attention. They want to engage and connect. And I think really that's what all of us want. Yeah. And I think we've got so many ideas about social norms and correct ways of being. And I don't know, it's just cool being around 2 little people that didn't have any of that. And then they just like walked straight into our van and started picking stuff up and asking what things were. And there's not limited by beliefs of how they should be. And I think sometimes when you're in that presence, you see your own limiting beliefs and ideas of what's correct and incorrect and acceptable and not acceptable. And I think that's the point really of what Sid saw is see this for yourself, wake up to this within yourself, and then live and meet people. And I think for such a long time doing the facilitator training, and I think for 5 years we trained facilitators, and it kind of got to the point in the principles where it was like, oh, have they got enough understanding, or can they articulate it in a way and it became so much of a thing, so much form, where like Godel, who we spoke about earlier, he just came alive with something and he started sharing with people. And for a long time he called it freedom thinking, because that's what our company was called. He didn't talk about 3 principles. So we just said to him at the conference, just mention 3 principles, not as well as freedom thinking, but it doesn't really matter. And that's the thing, the words don't matter. Like the poems that Heidi sent us are unique to Heidi, like it's words finding her, coming through her, from her true self, like from her knowledge, from her guide or teacher.
Fountain, yeah.
No one else is. And I think it's so easy to think someone else has got the right words or the right way. But I think those little kids at the weekend, they really like, I wanted to take them home. I was like, please, can you come and visit us again?
Oh, they were gorgeous, weren't they?
Just
And it was such an amazing thing because we were sat outside our van, and we were sat next to the River Duddon. It was dead, absolutely silent. It was, and so beautiful. And Jen started telling me about what this young lad had said about he's got two dads, and dad's the clouds, and that cloud there is that cloud there, and he's that stone there. And as she was telling me about it, this little whirlwind ran across the river at us. I say ran, it literally went straight towards us. And there was just this whistling noise, wasn't there? And when we looked at where this noise was coming from, you saw the leaves before. I didn't see the leaves. But there was just this about foot high torrent of water going up into the air like that. And then it just splashed us with water as it went through us. The moment she started talking about this dad who's in the sky and the rocks, this little tornado just whipped up the water and ran across the river at us and then splashed us with water in our faces. And it was just, I went and mentioned it to the fella. I said, you can make of this what you will. But I think somebody was telling us that just let them know. I can hear them. I can see them. I'm with them. Perhaps they can't see me just yet. Perhaps they can't feel me just yet. But please just let them know. So we went and let them know. And he just said to me, he welled up in his eyes, and he just said, I miss that man every day. He said, thank you so much for telling me that. And then he drove off.
I think that's the nice thing to remember, that this is, I think we say it probably every week, but this is a starting point, not a destination or a goal. Like, I know that the principles stabilized me so much because I was so unstable before I came across them, emotionally so unstable. But I clung to them and defended them and made the teachings the way. And it's been so nice to let my mind expand again and kind of realize that there is a starting point to wake you up to true knowledge that we have, all of us are that true knowledge, and it will guide us and teach us, and we can listen to it. And again, it's like I have no idea about that whirlwind, but it felt like a message. And I used to worry about saying things like that on Three Principles events or anything, because it's a personal opinion. I don't know. But I think that's the point, is that we don't know. And if we open our minds enough to recognize that there is so much more. Like I was telling this little girl, so she was showing me the ants, and they were carrying a dead ant, or it could have been an injured ant. So I was saying, ants have hospitals, and they take them there and they try and help them recover. And then, so she started to want to know where the hospital was. And I said, well, it'll be underground. I was like, there's so much underground. Like everything that we see above the ground, there's like as much or more life under the ground. And I've had a lot of conversations with people about what's happening in the world right now. And really, if you look at what's happening, it's so small compared to actually what is here, what is present, what does exist in form and in life. And I think just sat on the ground, like we just sat on the grass looking, and it's just picking up dust and looking at it, and it was like, there is so much more here that we don't see, because we get lost in our own stories, world stories.
We think we know what things are.
We fear the future, we get stuck in the past. But it was just seeing that moment of presence with her, like there's so much that we don't know and we don't see. And I think that's like, if we can open our mind, and I feel like that's what Sid was trying to point to. He wasn't saying teach the three principles. He was saying, wake up to like where reality is. Wake up to the power that lies within us in every moment. And we always say it on our retreats, but you know, this it isn't an anesthetic. If you come across the principles and think it's going to mean you don't feel certain feelings, or I think sometimes you feel deeper, you feel more, but you know it's all allowed and it's all as it should be. And I know like Paul's not on tonight, but often he'll be on a retreat where everyone's talking about love and perfection, and he's like pissed off and angry and wants everyone to shut up, and then he'll share that honestly, like, this is where I'm at right now, and then we'll 10 minutes later, like, where, how are you doing now? And he's like, yeah, I'm actually quite good now. Like, but it's nice. There isn't about showing up on these calls or on retreats and always seeing the love and peace and perfection, because we're also a human being, and we love and we lose and we struggle.
We have desires.
And I think it's the respect for that, like the respect for feelings and the respect for our humanness. Like I always used to say as a teenager, like, this world's too heavy and too much for me. I shouldn't be here. It's too hard. I can't do it. I want to be somewhere else. I want to be this spiritual somewhere else. And I think the principles allowed me to see that there isn't somewhere more spiritual or more, there isn't that division or that separation between here and there or form and formless. It was the principles unify everything again into one inexplicable whatever, call it what you want. We've got a friend, Paul, who just says it's all crisps. He gets to the point where he runs out of words, because like I've watched some of I found an old hard drive when I was clearing out, and I picked up and clicked on a talk I did at the Tikkun Center conference. I think it was from 2012, and I was listening to myself like stumbling through trying to get a message across, and I could see like how hard it is to find the words sometimes. But I know that after that talk, like there was people that came up and they hugged me and they cried, and it was after this one that I then got asked to work with someone's daughter. And when I was watching, I was like, I didn't say anything. I didn't really, like, I don't even know what I was saying, but there was something in that moment. And I think Roger, who taught me, would say, if we get quiet enough and listen and we're with people, words find us. And it might not be any form of teaching that we've heard before. It will just be in that moment, in the same way poetry finds us. And I think because this has become so huge in the coaching world, and that's amazing. Like, it's amazing that it's gone into coaching. It's amazing that it's gone into the psychology, but it can be very easy then to forget that your unique voice, your unique expression is what the world needs. Like, it doesn't, I know that when I tried to teach three principles as a paradigm, when I first heard it, it came alive for me, and my teaching was like, I was so alive when I was teaching it. And then I started worrying, am I in line with it? Am I using the correct language? And there isn't a way, there's nothing off limits. Like, people can talk about what they want to talk about. And sometimes it might feel like you've talked about nothing, but someone hears something. And like, I loved it earlier, just sitting in the silence. Like, how often do we feel moved to feel silence in a group situation, but can we sit in silence together? And I know in our group we've asked a few people to join us at the end sometimes to do, we've done between 1 minute and 8 minutes of just sitting silently together and sending love into the world. And I had a brilliant conversation with a friend just recently who shares the principles, but she has another friend who's very much like an activist, and she wants to fight and she wants to change, and that's what feels right for her. And this other friend was saying to me, she goes, I've got this to deal with and this to deal with in my life right now. And I want to come from a place of love with these two things that I need to do in my life right now. I can't think about the wider world. I can't think about like the climate issue. I can't think about that. She goes, don't get me wrong, I do my bit, but right now I just need to take care of this really small little world of my family. And she said, but I'm learning about patience, and I'm learning about coming from love, and I'm learning about the simplicity of sitting and having a cup of tea with someone. And as I was listening to her, I realized that is going to be what's most helpful for the world right now from her. She's just getting present with a cup of tea. And then for her friend right now, what is coming alive for her is this activism and protest, and it doesn't resonate so much with me to be like that in the world, but I know that there's a place, and it makes more sense for me to get quiet and come from that. But I'm not writing it off for the future. I don't know. But I think just knowing that, like Heidi said with Jack and Ori, like it's an unwritten story. There isn't a story that we have to kind of stick to. It can be written and rewritten, written and deleted. It can be written and adapted.
It's like mum's bit of wool there, isn't it, that she's knitting. You've knitted a little arm for a teddy bear, but you could very quickly unravel that and knit something else out of it.
It's a dinosaur's foot.
Dinosaur's foot. There you go. Who knew that bit of wool was going to be that? But you could unravel it and create something new. That's the beauty of us. It's the beauty of life. Just because we created something once doesn't mean that's what we are. Just because we acted in a certain way once, that's not what we are either. Just because we feel a certain way more often than not, that's not what we are. And sometimes seeing what we are not is a way of stepping closer to seeing what we are. Sometimes when you see the untruth of something, it takes you a step closer to the truth of it. But all the way through Heidi said, I heard awareness. I'm aware of that. I'm aware I behave like that. I'm aware of this. I'm aware that sometimes in the future I might dip again. All she spoke about was awareness, and that's all we're speaking about. It's the awareness that comes and bears witness to life. I remember Sam once saying she feels like there is almost a space, a distance between her and reality, where she's the observer of experience. I remember Jen and I were doing a talk with Sam, and she was saying I've become more of an observer of myself, and almost like there was a separation between herself and a character. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about awareness. You can start to gain awareness and respect. Oh, Flick's gone. Yeah, we're not talking about being a certain way. And the principles don't have an opinion about anything. The principles are made of love, so therefore they're only biased in that direction. But love can show up. We're talking about unconditional love. And unconditional love means it has zero conditions. Everything is made of it. Even fear. Even the darkest of hells is love manifesting into an experience. Now, I know that there'll be people on this call who have experienced what I'm talking about. And somewhere down the line, I feel like everybody has at some point. They've felt this divine love, and most often than not, it's when we're a child. Before we start contaminating our minds with what we think we should be and who we think we should be and how we think life should be and what we need to aim for and everything people tell us we are, that we idly just buy into and believe. taking some other person's separate reality and thinking it's more real than our own. I had a lady who used to come to our community group in Kendal when we used to do it in person, and she said, I went to the toilet the other day, 2 o'clock in the morning. She said, I nearly never got there. She said, I just fell into this unearthly love. Going to the toilet. When it hits, it hits. And you know it's real. You just know it's real. And you understand the statement, God is love. You understand why that statement was so specific, those words were so specific. It's not a conditional love, it's not a love for people or love for, it's love for everything. It's love for itself. And it favours every single person on earth, and it favours the whole all at the same time. It favours every single creature, and it favours every single plant, and it favours the whole at the same time. It's on the side of everything. It's total cooperation. There isn't a scrap of competition in it. That's one thing the human ego really has to start to learn, that life isn't competition. Nature isn't competitive. And every time we enter into competition, we're going against the very nature of nature itself. And that's why life becomes difficult. Because we're going against our very nature. This is why the world is full of people suffering, because they think it's competitive. It's not competitive. There's nothing to compete against. Nature doesn't compete with itself. Why would it? Dave, no, you can't say that. What about cats and mice? Must be a competition. No. Nature is the cat and nature is the mouse. It gives the cat the skills to catch the mouse, and it gives the mouse the skills to get away. It favours the whole, and it favours each individual. It favours each of us. Every single one of us. And it brought us here for a reason, because it wanted us here. And we wanted to be here. Nobody's a mistake. Nobody. Because mistakes don't exist in nature. It'll try different things out, certainly. But it was never a mistake. Mistakes are perspectives of mankind's mind. They're an opinion. Nature is opinionless. It's too practical and perfect for all that. Too intelligent. tidy up a bit. You didn't say that.
Why can't we hear Lisa?
Lisa, what are you trying to say?
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I was going to say about a realization a few weeks ago, and I don't know why it's actually coming out. So maybe it's, I don't know. But I've got an exam coming up on Monday, and it's a 5-day long assessment. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I just had this meltdown when I was practicing for this this examination, and it's a 5-day long examination, and it's we tested on like navigation and mountain skills, mountain leadership qualification. And I got up this mountain and was practicing some navigation, and I just went to pieces. And I was like, why am I doing this? I can't do this. I'm gonna fail this assessment, and I'm gonna fail it, not because I don't know it, not because I don't know what to do, but because I always fall to pieces in an assignment. If somebody's watching me, I can't do it. I'll just forget. My mind goes blank. Blah 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 blah. And I was just walking, and the sun was setting, absolutely freezing, and I just had this massive realization, like lightning, and it was like, that's a good story. In hell, I have been telling myself that since I was 15 years old. I've pulled out of fitness exams, I've pulled out of interior design courses, I've pulled out of so many running races that I've trained for, that I'd be perfectly capable of doing, because somewhere inside me I had a belief about myself that when I'm put under an examination, I won't be able to do it. So therefore, of course, I'll fail, because I already think that I will. I did not even know I carried that belief about myself until Folkestone. And now I'm actually excited about the assignment, the assessment, because whether I pass it or I don't, I only know what I know, and I can only do what I do at the time, and that's it. And it's just an experience. But it's been such a brilliant realization, because I just realized that we always have these little blind spots until we just don't have them, and we carry these little weights until they just fall off. And it was just such a brilliant realization. It was humbling to realize that we can still carry things around that we believe about ourselves. When you can be at peace within your heart, but then you I was feeling so like, God, shit, I'm not going to be able to do this. And I got really stressed. But it was brilliant, because out of that stress was born this realization that, well, whether you do or you don't, you just got to be alive somewhere doing something. And it it's just nothing. And it was just such a brilliant thing to realize. It was so freeing to realize that. And the funny thing is it was the same thing when I didn't enter running races, because of the fact that I might do really shit, not against other people, but against myself. And then, like Dave knows, the day that I did the zip and stepped out and shed all the ideas of myself, I entered a running race, and I won it, because I didn't give a shit whether I did or didn't. And it was just such a cool realization, just to realize that, God, I still carried that belief about myself, and I carried it for such a long time. It was freedom, felt freedom.
I remember that.
Yeah.
The race we're actually talking about was one in Glencoe. So it wasn't even a road race, it was a mountain race. And you forgot your watch.
No, I purposefully didn't put it on. I wasn't bothered.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I just dropped it all. None of that stuff mattered anymore.
And it was amazing. I remember you coming back and like saying, like, no, you didn't just win, you beat the course record.
Yeah.
so it was like, I was telling this to a young lad in Cape Town. He was an amazing swimmer, and he won a scholarship to an American university because he could swim. We were saying, how can this help me? I said, well, so my sister came across. I said, when you stand on your block and you're just about to start a race, I said, what are you thinking about? He said, well, I'm thinking about my stroke. I'm thinking about my entry. I said, how old are you now? He said, 20. I said, how long have you been swimming for? Since I was 8. And you're still thinking about your stroke. And that's when I told him about you, Lise. I said, my sister used to do that. She'd count her calories. She'd be looking at her miles per minute.
Yeah.
She'd be trying to keep a pace. And if she's not, see you, love, if she's not keeping that pace, I said, but the one day she let go of all of that. She just let go and she just ran a race. She beat a mountain fell race. She beat a course record and she had nothing on it because she knew how to run. And you could see how kind of the mind overthinking things really, really hinders everything. We're taught to think about it. But in actual fact, all this thinking is getting in the way of us thriving. It's not saying there isn't a place for thought and thinking. There certainly is, the intellect's a beautiful thing. But when you got out of your own way, you just ran and you beat that course record. I got an email off him. I got a text message, a WhatsApp off him. It was about 2 weeks later. And I think this lad swam the 400 meters. I think it was the 400 meters or something like that. And it showed me his times. And it made no sense to me. So I texted him and said, is that good? And he said, I remembered what you said when I stood on the block. He said, so I just stood on the block. He said, and when the gun went, he said, I just swam. He said, I knocked 8 seconds off my personal best.
Wow.
He knocked 8 seconds off his personal best. And again, it was just, I learned from you and I learned from that lad. Like, it's just, there's evidence for this fact that when we overthink things, we hinder ourselves.
The biggest realization I had about that was I wasn't in my body, I was well in my mind. And when I let it all fall off, it was just, I was just lived through it.
That's right.
And then that just shows you time and time again that when you just drop things, good things can just live through you. When you drop the beliefs and when you drop the identities of who you think you are. I mean, I thought I was a person that when I got put under examination, I can speak Spanish and but I can only speak Spanish if no one's watching, and then I can have a conversation with somebody if nobody's with me. But oh my God, like conditions of who I am. But truth is, when I have been chatting away to people and I haven't been in those identities of who I am and looking through the filters of who I think I am and how I think I behave under such circumstances, anything can show up. It's got all this space just to live through you, whatever it is. Anything can live through you when it's got the space and it's not being squeezed through the cheese press.
New magics.
Just infinite experience, not a narrow channel.
Nice one, Whippet. Do that again, Cal. Do you know what a whippet is?
This is nearly with it.
Shelley?
yeah, Shelley's nearly with it. This thing.
Dog here. No, my name's Molly.
I was being a beaver.
That was more beaver, yeah. That's more beaver.
It's really a bit slow,
I
pal.
don't think they'd be very good in a fell race.
On my own nose. I know why. I was just going to say, I really used to track everything to do with my running and everything to do with my fitness. It's such a trap. And I was training other people. And I used to then got to the point where I didn't let my clients do what I did to myself. And then one day I had this kind of like realization, it's like, hang on, you're telling other people not to do that to themselves. So just do it for the joy and engage in being outside and engage in being in running and enjoying being in the environment. And yet your watch didn't work when you did your hill sprints the other day. So you did it again. So, just stupid things that you do to yourself, like, but I wouldn't do it to someone else. But I was doing it.
You catch it though, isn't it? Because when you release it, the release is like,
I can enjoy a run again. I'd forgotten what it was like to just enjoy being outside, exercising, and just running for just the sake of running. And it was so great. I don't ever wear one anymore.
nothing.
Nothing. I don't track a thing now. And I wouldn't let my clients do it. I just wouldn't let them do it. What's that?
Just shout speaking out loud. I don't think I remember.
I didn't hear what she said, no. Yeah, so nice.
Yeah, it's freedom, isn't it?
So nice. And one little Garmin watch can trash your life.
I love what the Native American Indians say about one of the biggest problems or issues that we have in humanity is the minute we became able to record everything, track everything, trace everything, statisticalize everything. They live in the times when, the time of the great storm or the big volcano or the time the trees fell down or
when's the fruit ready? When the bird flies.
when the bird sings and the bird flies.
Yeah.
But we don't. It should be ready on the 25th of June at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's freedom, Cal. High five, sis.
I've got children asking me about food. I've got
I
distracted.
could hear it.
Could
I
you?
was thinking, yeah. I was thinking, is that Kiki shouting for toast
She's
without crusts?
shouting, and then she said to me, "How do you make baked beans?"
You don't.
No, you don't.
Real number one.
And you
You
heat
don't
them.
make baked beans. You heat them up.
They bubble. Okay. That's enough of an explanation.
Till it hurts your mouth. Perfect. Oh, well, has anybody else got anything they'd like to share?
I'd like to say thanks for a lovely group. It's been really beautiful tonight. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you,
Excellent.
guys.
Thanks for coming. Thank everybody for coming. Next Thursday. Yeah. Same time next Thursday. You're beautiful as well. Thank you, Cecilia. That beautiful was meant for me, wasn't it? Thanks, love. Lucky that there is a good looking one amongst the two of us, isn't it?
I said you were on fire.
I know.
God's sake. I don't get a
You
thank you.
didn't say I was beautiful.
You're that as well, all right?
Thanks. Oh, thanks everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
you, Dave. Thanks, Dave.
I had some thoughts. Which I don't want to share really, but it helped to listen to what you were saying. Thank you.
Oh,
It helped me just, think things through. Yeah.
it's nice watching you knit.
It's coming. We've only got 2.5, 3 months before the baby's
Yeah.
born, so I've got to get on.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm right. Proper gran.
A real proper gram, yes.
She'll show you the finished product.
I'll show you.
You'll see the finished thing.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big enough.
It'll cuddle a toddler as well as a baby.
Oh.
Yeah.
Multi-
Lots of love, everybody. Have a good week.
Mwah.
Lovely to see you.
Bye, everybody.
Love to everyone.
Yes.
Love you all,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Where's my mouse, man?
You-
Bye.